Hi, I'm Desiree Chappell. Welcome to Top Med Talk. It's Tuesday and it's time for my Roundtable. The Roundtable is a chance to sit down with a multidisciplinary group to have discussion about perioperative care and improving the quality of what we do every day.
Top Med Talk.
Alrighty, well this is Top Med Talk and I'm joined by my co-host, Mike Grocott. Hello Mike, how are you?
Very good. Good to be back.
But I have two very special guests that have just given us a little bit of time this afternoon to talk about something that we're very passionate here on Top Med Talk about, and that is brain health. And we have Dr. Lee Fleisher, who is chair at the University of Pennsylvania. Lee, thank you so much for coming back and talking to us. I know we talk about brain health a lot, but it's really important.
We have, and what was really fortunate is Dan Cole invited Sarah Locke from AARP to join us today for a panel that will be occurring in about half an hour. And when I was looking for a partner for this initiative, I felt it was critically important to really engage the patient. And in the U.S., which will be interesting when Mike can comment, there's no better partner when looking for senior adults, or Sarah will be able to define what we mean by that as AARP. And I was really fortunate, as you will shortly hear, why Sarah is the ideal partner.
Right. So we have Lee Fleisher, and then we also have with us Sarah Locke from the AARP. Sarah, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it. So can you give us a little bit about your background, what your title is, and what you do at the AARP?
Sure, Desiree. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
My name is Sarah Locke, and I'm a Senior Vice President for Policy at AARP. And because brain health is so important to people 50 and older, our membership, we have started something called the Global Council on Brain Health, and I'm the director of the Global Council on Brain Health.
Oh, very good. So that's wonderful. You guys have kind of recognized that and taken that initiative on.
Yes, and that's because we survey people 50 plus all across the country, and they, in no uncertain terms, have told us what's important to them. And brain health and the ability to stay sharp as they age is actually their top concern.
Yeah. So we here on Top Med Talk, kind of our focus is perioperative care, perioperative medicine. And so everything we look at is kind of focused around the surgical patient. And we know that most individuals have about, 9 surgeries, I think, during the course of their life, somewhere around there. And we know that the aging population tend to be some of our number one patients. Mm-hmm. And so when you were surveying your constituents, I guess, was that something that concerned them, brain health, but kind of in the guise of surgery?
It's actually fascinating. In my partnership with Lee on this effort and the American Society for Anesthesiologists, we have taken a new look at this question because we know people 65 and older will have at least one surgery in their lives, and many people have many more. Understanding its effect on older people has become a new issue for us. We've been primarily focused on lifestyle issues. What can you do to reduce your risk for cognitive decline as you age? And the idea that people so commonly experience surgery and have challenges coming out of surgery with either postoperative cognitive decline or delirium is a new area of focus for AARP as a result of this partnership and learning just what a significant issue it is.
I'd like to focus, given the time and Sarah's unique opportunity. Yeah. Sarah here is the patient. And what was really interesting, and Sarah brought in a number of patients, we brought in one patient, is sort of their frustration now that they know this can occur, and it has occurred to them, with nobody telling them. So it really was quite clear at this summit that we had together that if we had normalized this a little or had made them aware, they may have chosen other decisions particularly for people who have dementia already, and maybe avoided surgery or changed the type of surgery, or actually the people who don't, not be so scared of what had happened. And I don't know if Sarah can comment. It was quite an experience to hearing the voice of the patient.
Sure. It's so shocking for people to understand that this is a very common side effect of surgery. So I think just letting folks know that this is a potential so that they and their caregivers can get themselves in the best shape for surgery and think about what they can do as patients and as caregivers and family members, it's amazing. Very simple steps can make a huge difference in the outcome. So that was a revelation, and I think if more people were aware of the steps that they can take, it would make a big difference in outcome.
Yeah.
I'm going to jump in and
Mike.
ask the kind of
this is your
dumb question from a visitor in a foreign land. So I know what AARP is because I'm a frequent visitor to the US, but I'm not sure that the context, because we have listeners globally around the world, it might be just useful to throw in, I mean, obviously you're the voice of the patient, but just a little bit about the organisation.
Sure. So AARP is a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization. We have 38 million members in the United States. And our mission is to empower people to choose how they live as they age. So it's an organization that's very focused on people's health security, their financial security, and their well-being, what we like to call health, wealth, and self. So that's why this is of such interest to people 50 plus, is their well-being and their brain health as they age is critical to maintaining their well-being.
So your membership is not far off the entire voting population of the United Kingdom. That's extraordinary for an organisation.
And is there anything like this in the UK?
So there are some organisations, but I'm not aware of anything that is quite that focused in that direction. We have patient organisations, and we have older folks organisations of different types, but I'm not aware there's a unifying body. You may know better.
Yes, actually, Age UK in the United Kingdom partners with us to form the Global Council on Brain Health. They're not exactly like AARP, and they do direct services, but it's another organization that focuses on the well-being of older people, and they've been fantastic partners. And part of the inspiration that we have a global council is finding this interest is, of course, not just unique to the United States.
Right.
People all across the world are concerned about their brain health.
And they're a great organisation. I know they were, but not a membership organisation. Somewhat
Correct.
different. They're a charity who fund research and services, as you say.
But one of the things that we really need, and we needed the help of a group of going outside of us and really reflecting back, is if we were to educate patients, how do we do it without scaring them?
Yeah.
Because for a lot of patients, and that's what we hope to create with AARP, for a lot of patients, if they know what they need to prepare themselves and they have some idea of healthy living, and really the American Heart has wanted to join us very strongly with AARP of the exercise. You know, we're talking on the way here about yoga and other things you can do. It's my passion.
And mine.
So those sort of activities, and maybe even creating an infographic, is something that's high up on our agenda.
Yeah. So we have a lot of listeners from varied backgrounds. So I heard you talking about the American Heart Association. Who other types of physicians are you bringing in to the Brain Health Initiative, and how is that working with the AARP as well?
Our scientists have worked with the Alzheimer's and Dementia Group, and in fact, many patients are actually fearful that what we're talking about with delirium, they confuse delirium and dementia. And they confuse this short-term effect with they're actually becoming demented. So we have partners scientifically, and it'd be interesting for Sarah to talk about the partners that they and the Global Brain Council have. So
from the perspective of healthcare, geriatrics, of course, is huge into this. And so we've partnered not only with the geriatric healthcare providers, but the American Geriatric Society, but organizations like CMS here in the United States, the Administration for Community Living, the Centers for Disease Control, finding the public health messages around this, as well as individual groups like the National Alliances for Caregiving and nurse anesthetists. Really, there are so many different groups who have a role to play in this, but really bringing the message of patient empowerment and awareness is what AARP is particularly interested in and focused on, because a well-informed patient is going to be able to go into surgery much better and then ask the right questions of their primary care physicians, of their surgeons, of the anesthetists, and actually understand what they're getting into.
Yeah. Mike?
So I'm a huge fan of the Brain Health Initiative, but one of the challenges I see, and I'm intrigued to know how you deal with the risk that, so from my own family. So my mother's terrified of the thought of dementia. Her mother was very disabled in later life from dementia, and therefore anything that sort of links to that at all, she's very nervous of. And I wonder how you avoid the sort of unintended consequence of the fear of a perioperative brain injury actually deterring people from surgery that may be in their best interest. How do we work that balance?
Well, you have to weigh the risks, right? Because lots of people who have an emergency surgery, I remember one of the folks at the meeting, he was a bike rider and he fell and had the spike go through his brain. He didn't have a choice, right, of undertaking the surgery or not. But lots of people have voluntary surgeries, right? And so just making sure that they understand the risks, what they're getting into, because it's not a matter of turning them off a surgery. It's a matter of preparing them so that they can have a better outcome after the fact.
Yeah. Sarah, you mentioned one thing, a public health campaign. And I think my fear was we're going to medicalize this and patients will not understand how they can be empowered to minimize that risk. And really the reason it was so important that a group like AARP was our partner is if we create communication, you have expertise in educating patients so they're not afraid. Mm-hmm. Any thoughts on how we go forward together?
Well, I think that making sure that family members and caregivers are brought into the conversation so that it can be a team approach, right? Mm-hmm. And so thinking about how their healthcare providers who see them regularly can engage with the surgeons and with the anesthesiologists so that it's a team-based approach that everybody has a role to play, and making sure that people see this as a collective effort to get through the other side. I know that when my mother was going through this and she experienced delirium, if I had known, I would have made different choices about when and my family members coming in to take care of her,
absolutely.
Make sure that somebody was there familiar with at all times. My dad, make sure that he had breaks so that when a very scary occurrence of delirium didn't terrify him, right? Yeah. So thinking about how all of these things fit together when you're a family member or you're a person undergoing the surgery, it's very empowering to understand that there are things that you can do and that eventually you probably will come out of it, that most people do recover eventually. And so thinking about those things, and Lee, you probably can speak to this, of how often this happens.
Yeah, the delirium in the 30 to 50%, the brain fog, we actually don't know because people didn't have the right nomenclature. We call it postoperative cognitive dysfunction, but nobody's asking. But, just your answer reminded me why I came to you, because I'm not convinced, and maybe you're better in the UK than we are, of even thinking that way, of that team-based approach to the education.
Yeah, I don't think we are, and honestly, listening, I think it's an inspirational partnership. There's something that we could take back and learn from. It's great to hear.
Yeah, that's wonderful. What a great way to end. Sarah, thank you so much for taking the time to sit down with us. I hope we can, talk to you guys in the future in the AARP. I think this partnership with the Brain Health Initiative is great, but just, again, the education piece of what you guys are doing, and some of our listeners, too, I think would love some engagement there. So thank you again for sitting down. And Lee, of course, as usual, we love having you on Top Med Talk. Thanks so much.
Always a pleasure.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks so much.
Top Med Talk. Nick Majerison here. Thank you for listening to Top Med Talk. Now, make sure you've subscribed to Top Med Talk on your podcatcher or however it is that you're listening to us at the moment. And you're spoilt for choice. We're on pretty much every single podcast platform you could think of. So make sure you've subscribed. Make sure you've engaged with us on social media, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube. And make sure you've signed up for our email updates on topmedtalk.com. If you get yourself there, you'll find a website that contains all of the podcasts that we've ever done, and it gives you the chance to sign up for our email updates. That way we can always get in touch with you and tell you what we're up to. Oh, and while you're online, check out ebpom.org/meetings. While you're there, get excited about EBPOM London 2019, the London Perioperative Medicine Congress. It's on July the 2nd, and it's one of many meetings that EBPOM organises around the world in order to communicate the perioperative medicine message. Have a look, ebpom.org/meetings.